Welcome back to Deep in Bear Country, a Berenstain Bearcast. I am your host, Phil Gonzalez, and I am riding in a car right now. I am driving back to my house from Minnetonka, Minnesota, where I just did some stuff for work. I just met a nice little boy who has a brain injury, and he got to meet one of his hockey heroes from the Minnesota Wild, got given an autographed jersey, got given an autographed hockey stick, like a real professional hockey stick, like hitting that you use for hitting the hockey balls. The kid was over the moon. 10-year-old kid, born with a brain injury, amazing kid. Now, why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because I was going to record an episode today, but then work got in the way. No, because I had to reorganize my thoughts. I had a lot of stuff I had to shuffle around, and I'm just not able to get to work. I'm not able to do my stuff on time, and I'm driving back, and I'm like, well, I can record an episode when I get home, but then I've got stuff to do for the Minnesota Fringe Festival tonight. I've got this show starting this weekend. In fact, when this drops, the show is tonight. Like, the show premieres tonight at 10 p.m. Central. I'm at the Experimental Theater at the Rarig on the University of Minnesota campus. The Experimental Theater is a 70-seat venue. It's long, like side to side. It's a wide stage, not a deep stage. But I rehearsed on it the other night, and I'm excited. I'm excited to get out there and put into practice some of the stuff that Mike talks about in a lot of his books. And it got me thinking. I was like, what is the show? What is my show about? And by my show, I mean Deep in Bear Country, my Berenstain Bears podcast that you're listening to right now. I mean Lost in Bear Country, the stage show that I'm performing at the Minnesota Fringe Festival this year. What am I trying to say with these shows? Like, what is the point of these shows? Like, 8.5 years of podcasting. What conclusions have I come to? What have I discovered about myself, about the world, about people, about community, about love, about family, about God, about birth, life, death? I mean, that's really what I'm talking about on stage, but I don't talk about it much on this show because I'm really focused on a book. And I think the conclusion I have come to, and if you're not able to get to the Minnesota Fringe Festival and see my show, that's why I'm talking about this now, because there's those of you out there who won't get to come see my show, and they're going to be like, well, I guess I'm just going to miss on, I'm going to miss out on the amazing points that this boy named Phil is filling my head. Funny thing, when I started this show, when I started Deep in Bear Country, I was always a little cowed by the fact that I was like, I'm a man in his late 30s talking about the Berenstain Bears. And then for a while, I'm a man in his early 40s talking about the Berenstain Bears. And then I was a man in his mid 40s talking about the Berenstain Bears. I am now a man pushing 50 talking about the Berenstain Bears. So think about that. Think about it. I got to talk to a professional hockey man today. His name is Mark something. I don't remember his name. He's apparently a very famous hockey man. This is not me showing disrespect. This is me showing that I don't know anything about hockey. Apparently a very famous hockey man. And he said, oh, I'm losing my facilities. I'm 46 years old now. And I'm like, 46? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a 47-year-old man. I'm a 47-year-old man. So I'm pushing 50. Pushing 50, which means nothing. Age is nothing but a number. A number that clearly designates exactly how long you've been alive on the earth and gives you a good idea of how much longer you have left. I'm giving myself a good 8 or 9 years. Gonna make them last. Gonna make them mean something. So how do you make your life mean something? Well, you could do a lot worse than take into account the lessons we've been given from Mike Berenstain, Stan Berenstain, Jan Berenstain, and that cuddly family of bears that we call the Berenstain Bears, even though that's not their name. They're just the Bear family. Ernie, Melissa, brother and sister, Honey Bear, the Berenstain Bear family. What lessons do we learn? This is my big one. This is the one that I want you to take with you. Put this in your pocket today when you hear this. Put this lesson in your pocket. Take it to heart. Carry it close to your chest. Because this isn't me being facetious. This isn't me being snarky. This isn't me trying to be funny. This is me trying to be as genuine and sincere as I can while talking in my car as I crawl along at literally 3 miles an hour on a 394 East, heading home from Minnetonka, because you better believe it's rush hour traffic. Rush hour traffic in Minneapolis starts at like noon, and it runs until noon the next day. That's all I'm saying. So, what have we learned? What wonderful lessons have we learned? Now, if you listen to my Gifts of the Spirit episode, it's that I don't know why you would. If you listen to my Gifts of the Spirit episodes, and I don't know why you wouldn't, you'll be privy to a lot of this. But trust me, I've thought about this a lot. Life, what is the point of it? Why are we here? And if I had 8 years left to live, if I had 8 months left to live, 8 weeks, 8 days, what could I do in that time? What can I do in that time? Can I build a ladder to the moon? No, I cannot. Can I become a world-famous movie actor? No, I cannot. Can I become a wonderful singer? No, I cannot. I could probably become a wonderful... If I had 8 years, I could probably become a wonderful singer. I'm a pretty good singer. Don't rape me. See? Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Pavarotti. No, if I had 8 years, 8 months, 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 minutes... Well, 8 minutes, I'm stuck in traffic. But regardless, I could put into action the philosophy of the Berenstain Bears, particularly the Berenstain Bears from the last few years. And that is, and I love this, give the people in the world that you love, the people that you care about, and we talked about this, I think, in our caring episode, give people you care about the space to be who they are. I would say, beyond the golden rule, this is an action. This means more to me than the golden rule. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. It's all well and good. But what if people don't want you to do to them what you would like people to do to you? Like, that's the problem. Unless you're getting vague about it, and then you're like, well, then now the golden rule doesn't mean anything at all. Like, if you're like, well, treat me with respect. Like, yeah, but you like people to do specific things to you. I like to be presented with a chocolate eclair every morning. That doesn't mean I should present everyone with a chocolate eclair every morning, because they don't like chocolate eclairs. Maybe they don't. However, the act of caring, give people the space they need to be themselves, or to be authentically themselves, is probably the most vital information, like the most vital rule I can think of. Not because it's something that Mike specifically says in any of the books, but because it is part of the philosophy of caring, as we talked about, and it is literally what the Bears do in the books when the books are at their best. I mean, the books sometimes stumble and get weird, and sometimes they're preachy, but at their best, we see the Bears in Bear Country allowing the members of their community to be themselves, to be authentically themselves, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, and as long as they're not making egregious errors that could possibly hurt themselves. So there is a hand on the tiller, but it's a light hand. And it's not just the parents to the kids, it's the kids to the parents, it's the community leaders to the community members, and the community members to their leaders. And sometimes we see this played out in weird ways. We see them tolerating a very corrupt mayor. We see them allowing a billionaire to control their community. Sure, we see that. A lot of that's for yucks, and we get it. It's for yucks and laughs. But overall, with your Raffish Ralph ripoffs, with your Weasel McGreeds, with your Mayor Honeypots, with your Officer Marguerites, with Too Tall, Vinny, Scuzz, and Smirk, with all them, heck, even with the Bog Brothers, we see the members of the Bear community say, you know what? This is who they are. This is these people's nature. We may not always like it, but we're going to allow them to be who they are as long as they're not causing harm and as long as they are not harming themselves. Once that happens, we'll step in. And I've been thinking a lot about being authentically me and people who celebrate being authentically themselves. Great tragedy in the world of pop culture this week. Paul Reubens passed away, age of 70. Now, I grew up watching Paul Reubens as Pee Wee Herman and playing other characters, but mostly Pee Wee Herman. And I wrote about this on social media, but, you know, for those of you who aren't friends with me on social media, who don't see my stuff, seeing Pee Wee Herman for the first time in Pee Wee's Big Adventure, for me as a child, was a revelation. Because here was a guy who was being a character, but a character whose whole point was that he was unabashedly himself, sometimes obnoxiously himself, but he never caused anyone harm. He never wished anyone harm. And once he started making his audience almost purely kids, actively tried to help children learn to be authentically themselves. Not by preaching, but by simply by being who he was in as outrageous a manner as he could be. There were characters who interacted with him who were put off by his antics, sure. But mostly it was people who were won over by him, who were like, you know what, this guy isn't trying to turn me into him, but he's not afraid of being who he is. And I'd say that most of my 47 years on this planet has been spent trying not to be afraid of who I am, and to be who I am, and not apologize for who I am, and to surround myself with people who will literally just let me be. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes being who I am can be difficult for people around me, especially for the people who are closest to me. And so I have to learn, you know, like, maybe don't be 100% unfettered around the people who are the closest to me all the time, because a little Phil can be a lot of Phil for the people who are caught in the crossfire. But I feel like if I were in Bear World, if I were in Bear Country, if I were in Bear Town, I would have a place there. They would say, great, Phil, be who you are, be unabashedly who you are. You always have a place in Bear Town. And I can take that philosophy and say, you know what? I think I have a place in Phil Town as well. I think I have a place in the actual world as well. This actual factual universe that we exist in. I think I have a place. The question is, do I surround myself with the people who care enough about me to let me be who I am? And do I allow the people around me to be who they are? I try. It's hard sometimes because you also have to have, like I said, a light hand on the tiller. And when you see people who you love and who you care about, maybe harming other people, maybe being unfair, maybe harming themselves or being unfair about themselves, sometimes you can gently help guide them by saying, you're being too hard on yourself, or you're worrying about something that you actually don't need to worry about. Like, things might actually turn out, or let me take some of the burden off your shoulder if I can. Or if I can't, just know that I'm here. And I think the Bears are good at that, and I think practicing that active philosophy is healthy. And I think that, as we've seen, Mike is really good at creating a universe in which the characters he writes walk that talk and put their money where their mouths are, and say it's not enough to love one another, honestly, because love isn't a descriptor, it's an action verb. And that's cheesy to say. Love is a verb, I know, is like a cheesy a wooden sign you find at Joann Fabric, but it's true. Love is a verb. It's not something you sit on. It's not just something you sit around and think about. If you love something or someone, if you love your community, if you love the people in your life, if you love, if you truly love all of humankind, then you've got to get out there and act. You've got to actively love. You've got to actively care. Being a part of the community is not sitting around at home thinking about how wonderful community is. It's going out there and being a part of the community. I went out because Alana made me. I went out and participated in National Night Out. And oh boy, did I not want to do that. I am not good around strangers. I do not know how to meet people. I am a neurotic mess. I get so much anxiety meeting new people. even though these are people who live down the street from me. And you know what? It was great. I had a very strong cider that for some reason led to me eating a hamburger, which I've not done in probably 18 years. I haven't had meat, a beef. It was very good, homemade right off the grill, so that was something. That was my slip up. But it was fun. I met some nice people. I met my neighbors. If I see them on the sidewalk, I'll be able to say hello. You remember me, I'm Phil. It was nice. Put myself out there. And you might say, well, that's not a whole lot. But for me, that was a whole lot. It fried my brain, and I had to go home and rest. But I did it, and I'm happy, and I'm proud of myself. And I think acted like myself until the cider got to be a little too much. It was a strong cider and big. I think it was a whole pint. So, yeah. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go out and drink a hard cider, but get out, put yourself out there, I guess. If I can do it, so can you. So, tonight, when you hear this, I will be treading the boards for the first time in a few years and putting myself out there in Lost in Bear Country, where I try to figure out if I have a place in Bear Country. Do I? Do I not? I think I do. But you're going to have to come see the show to find out. And if you can't come see the show, maybe I'll tell you how it went. I'll tell you how it went. I'll be talking about the Berenstain Bears. I'll be talking about love, family, God, birth, death, sports, and race, actually. So, different show every night. Go to minnesotafringe.org and find my show. If you can't come see it, at least check out my page. And if you want to support the show, there's a way to throw me a tip on there. Tip the artist, it says. You click on that, and you can do that if you feel like it. If you don't, don't. If you do, thanks. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back with more books. The next time you hear me, I'll have books. Otherwise, I hope I get home soon. Literally crawling along at 5 miles an hour. Like, don't worry, I'm not breaking any laws. Didn't touch my phone at all. Turned it all on with my voice command. So, I don't know, maybe I'll get done with this and this won't even have been recorded. If not, then there's no episode this week. But if so, I'll see you all next time, deep in Bear Country.